Hello, hello, ladies and gentlemen. This is your girl Mitzi, and this is Mitzi. Let's think about it. Today we are thinking about moving forward. Can we do it? Are you able to do it? Why should we think about this? All these great questions. I have Trisha here who's going to help us really think about moving forward in a whole new way, just so that we could keep on thinking about it, because that's the point. So thank you so much, Trisha, for coming on to my show and sharing your time and your perspective. I am truly excited to pick your brain on this topic. So let's just dive right in. When you hear those words, moving forward, what does that make you think about?
It's really if I'm stuck or if I feel like I'm losing momentum or not motivated, I just taking some action. And
Mm.
really, it doesn't even have to be forward sometimes. It can be sideways. Or even like, and it is moving forward to actually take a step back and reassess, right? So taking some action to, either get yourself unstuck or think of a new idea or a new project or the next right step or just taking a walk even. I feel like sometimes moves you forward to wherever you want to go, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely. And people don't even think about it like that in the sense of moving to the back, moving from side to side. We think of it as just running, you know what I mean, or sprinting or just moving forward. But we don't actually consider the fact that sometimes taking a step back is still moving forward. Sometimes just taking a step to the left or to the right is still moving in a direction that's still positive for whatever that's going on in your life, or just pausing and just breathing, you know what I mean? Taking a walk, like you suggested, just all of those great key points of just that all includes about just moving, you know what I mean? Moving in a direction that people don't even realize or would even consider, because we have this mindset of moving has to be positive, or moving has to be in a way that we are hustling, you know what I mean? But we don't take it as a sense of moving can be resting. Moving can just be catching your breath and just realizing like this is okay too. So for you, when did you realize that you had to move forward in a maybe an unorthodox way?
Yeah, I think there's been so many examples in my life that, just taking a step, no matter what it was. My college got thrown off course and I had to reassess because everything didn't look the same as it was. And I realized that was okay. Like it was going to be okay. Like the world wasn't going to fall apart. I was still going to be able to achieve a lot of the things that I wanted to, but it just might look a little different than, the perfect picture I had in my head. So yeah, and with finding a job, with finishing my college degree, with, so many things. I remember I've just published my first book and I was talking to another author and I was a little frustrated by my sales. And she said, you know what? This is a marathon. This is not a sprint. And I started kind of applying that to like a lot of things, like just giving myself the grace to like, okay, take one action and see what happens. Take another action, see what happens. And just, keep doing the next right thing, even for lack of a better term. And sometimes that next right thing can be, like you said, resting, taking a step back, reassessing, being creative, talking to other people. So many things can come into just the action of having moving forward being more encompassing.
Yes, yes. And I love the fact that, well, congratulations on publishing your book. I love my authors because I publish books as well. And I think that is something that we have to just remember, is that we're not putting our book out there to become famous or become a millionaire or anything like that. We're putting our book out there so that somebody can read it and feel seen, can imagine the world, can imagine everything that I'm putting into this book, so that it can be something bigger to them. You know what I mean? It's that relatability aspect. You know, it's that feeling seen in a place that may be unseen to other people. And I think just knowing that life isn't as you planned it out as when you were a child, you know what I mean? That's so strong, because I mean, how many people can truly relate to that? You know what I mean? Nobody really has had that perfect picture life where, oh, I'm gonna have XYZ and XYZ is gonna come out exactly like XYZ. Like, no, doesn't work like that. Sometimes you have BDC or LJK, or you know what I mean? It mixes up in the alphabet, but it doesn't devalue your life. It doesn't devalue your goals, and it doesn't take away from the fact that you're still a human being that is feeling, grieving, being loving, everything that comes with just life itself. And I think just like you said, that giving yourself that grace. Oh, yes, Trisha, I am with you on that. Yes, I am. I don't think anybody or a lot of people really give themselves the grace to just be. You know what I mean? To just be who they are without having to have a title next to their name or being labeled something fancy, or, you know, when you have all these awards or accolades next to them, you know, just being a being is as good as just being a plant. You know what I mean? An oak tree is not fighting to be a palm tree. You know what I mean? They are just being who they are, where they're at, and they are existing in the greatness as who they are. So it's like, what are some misconceptions? I know we touched base on a few of them, but what are some other misconceptions about progression and moving forward?
Yeah, I grew up in a very like structured environment
Mm.
and in a very like I guess for lack of a better term, success-based environment. So
Mm.
anything I was in, I was told, okay, well, what is your next goal? What is your goal here? What do you want to achieve? And once I got to that little goal, like I achieved that goal, then I was asked, okay, well, what's the next thing? So I really had the mindset that I wasn't really valued unless I was achieving some, certificate or some milestone and that was how I progressed through life. That's how I saw it. And
Mm.
I see myself as a late bloomer because it wasn't 20 until I was like, wait, like
Mm.
is this really what I want? I mean, this little picture, and do I really need to make things better each and every time? Like, I got a 98, that can be good enough, you know? Like,
Yeah.
so I finally got to the point where I was like, this is really not making me happy. Just like setting the next goal and working for the next goal and just keeping on this little treadmill. I think I was a little hamster in my little wheel and not really looking at the bigger picture of my life. And so, and it really wasn't until I, experienced this I became anorexic in college. And it really wasn't until I really stepped back and looked and said, oh, wow, I really do not need to be this little perfect person on this little hamster wheel here. And
Yeah.
can I look and reassess and see what else is out there to fulfill my life other than just like looking for this next goal.
Yes. Oh, how I love how you said that, because you are not alone. You are not alone, Trisha. There are so many people out there that constantly feel to validate themselves by their accomplishments, to validate their worth by their next goal and their next whatever that's on their list, but never embracing that moment of I did it, or I finally got that 90, or I finally got this award. I maybe did not get first place, but second place is still something, still recognizable. And it's so sad because people will never know unless they give themselves that grace that it's okay to just be here. It's okay to have 300 followers. It's okay to not have $1 million in your bank account. It's okay. You know what I mean? And I don't think a lot of people hear that enough. So I think it's beautiful that you're sharing that part of you, especially about how you were anorexic in college and how you felt like you had to be this itty bitty person to be this perfect ideal woman. Oh my goodness, how many beauty standards have been pushed down our throats to be considered to be the perfect woman? It's exhausting. You know what I mean? And I think at a very young age, I realized that I was never going to be this perfect skinny woman, but I can be perfect at just being who I am. And I think that's what helped me just embrace all that I am, because I went down that rabbit hole of starving myself as well, because I had to be really skinny, and my grandmother was really upset at my older sister for being a bigger girl, and like she would even entice her to lose weight by giving her money, like if you lose such amount of weight I will give you such amount of money, you know what I mean? So like that just was embedded into my family because of my grandmother, and both grandmothers at that. So it was really hard, especially with those beauty standards. And my grandma, one of my grandmothers, she didn't like darker skinned. And since I was the darkest out of my sisters, she always pushed me aside. But because my other sister was lighter, she was a light complexion, she was more praised for just being a lighter complexion. So It truly is a hinder to always try to look on the outside of you to have that validation. It's when you start looking on the inside where you realize I'm okay. You know what I mean? I am okay with just being me. And I think that's the hardest thing is just accepting yourself as who you are because in the back of your mind you have those old sayings, those old narratives in there, just like, are you sure that you don't want to starve? You know, are you sure that you don't want to look this way? Are you sure you should, you know what I mean? Those things are always right there. So how do you keep yourself motivated to just being you?
Yeah, and I guess I've embraced this ideology where like almost everything we do, I call magic. So like any talent, I don't even like to call them talent. I like to call them special traits because
I love it.
everybody has different traits, talents, different things they're good at and different things they love to do. And I call all of those magic because to me, like you're creating something that wasn't there before, whether it's being kind to a person or whether your superhuman strength is just that you're really good at motivating other people or that you're really good at keeping in touch with other people or you're really good at, drawing or, whatever brings you happiness and passion. And that is something you can contribute to the world. And that is just valuable in and of itself. It doesn't have to be, okay, you know, I produced this amazing song that 10 million people loved and downloaded. It can be, I just sang a song for my mom today and made her happy, or my grandmother, or, I helped the lady down the street, or, any of those little gifts that we have that are just, I think of as magic. So every time I like think of something that I'm like, maybe not so good at, I'm like, wait, let's reassess over here. You may not be wonderful at that, but let's look at what we are wonderful at.
I love the word reassess. I think that is something that a lot of people need to add into their vocabulary because reassessing is so powerful because it really brings you back to who you are as a human being because people don't take that into consideration just having that gift of encouragement. You know how hard it is to encourage people sometimes and then for you to just be able to encourage other people, that is magic like you said, or just keeping up with people. That's really hard to do for some people. And the fact that you're able to keep up with all these people on your contact list, I mean, that's amazing, you know. And I love the fact that you call it those little pieces of magic because it is magical because it makes us who we are. You know what I mean? It gives us that memory, that core memory where I will always see you as whatever, you know what I mean? I will always hold a special place in my heart because of who you are. And I think those little moments shouldn't be revered as unimportant because it still holds so much value. And I just wish people can just see the value in the unvalued. If that's the right way to say it, you know what I mean? It's most definitely see the value in the unvalued. So do you think limiting beliefs also take a toll on moving forward?
I was going to say yes. A lot of times we can't see ourselves. Like we can't see that. And maybe I guess the word I'm searching for is honestly, sort of. You can't see yourself as because you have one view of yourself. And maybe that view is so ingrained, you don't see yourself as like all these different parts of yourself. Whereas somebody looking at you may say, oh, yeah, so and so is great at XYZ. And that so and so may not even be thinking that in their life. That's even one of their superpowers, right? So I
Exactly.
think we do get kind of like narrow focused and only see ourselves one way and not like broaden. Like there are so many different parts of ourselves, whether it's like emotional, whether it's, creative, whether it's, you love science, whether so, there's so many different parts of ourselves that we can tap into too, and we don't see them maybe in some way looking at us, may be able to see them better than we can.
Yeah, I think that's really valid because people don't realize like what we have is good enough. And I was speaking to somebody how he was like, I didn't have obvious gifts, you know what I mean? I wasn't a singer, I wasn't built right, I'm a shorty, you know what I mean? Like all these things that may diminish us of who we are, but it can still be our superpower. Like you said, it can still be a part of us that can be useful in one way or another. You know what I mean? Like we have to truly take all that we are, despite what we only focus on, and really value all that we are, because we are here for a reason. Maybe we don't know the reason yet, but there's some type of reason or purpose that we're here, and why not just step into the unknown and really figure it out? Because yeah, singing is obvious, acting is obvious, you know what I mean? All those nice things, but in reality, just having that empathy is magical. Knowing math is magical. Knowing science and having a great memory is still valuable, you know. And I think we overlook it because we think as if it can make us big money, then oh, then it holds more value. But even if you don't make big money, you can still hold value by just showing kindness and just showing that empathy and having that heart to heart connection with other people is so real. And it makes me think of you know, like body dysmorphia. You know what I mean? Like somebody can have body dysmorphia, see themselves as like some complete monster, while everybody else can see them as some beautiful individual, but they would never have that understanding. It would never click to them because they had the way they look at themselves in the mirror is a whole different way. And I think a lot of people are have that, but you know what I mean? They have this type of body dysmorphia, but in whatever way you want to call it, but it's real. You know what I mean? It's a real thing that can really hinder people from growth and progression and progression. So I'm curious, what motivated you to write your book?
Yeah, so initially it was to write my story of my experience with anorexia. I wrote my Being Me series is a 4-book series based on I fictionalized it. It is a fictional series, but it's really based on my experience with, um, um, you know, getting into the disease and then how I was able to, use resources and other people to help me recover. Uh, so that was my initial impetus to writing, and I really wrote it for maybe initially for myself more. It was very cathartic, very healing. But then I had some people in my life that said, you need to do something with this. So I published that series, and my main love is fantasy. So then very quickly I jumped into the YA fantasy genre.
Oh yeah, I love it. I mean, I spoken to somebody else who did write like a memoir version of their experience with anorexia. So I know it's very healing to just write it out for them, but I love the fact that you did it in a fantasy aspect because that really makes it outside of the box, but also relatable to the other people who can't really see it in just that serious form of how people may only see anorexia. You know what I mean? Because there's different levels to it, you know, and just because you're not this tiny twig or how they like to describe it doesn't necessarily mean you're not experiencing something like in that form. And I think fantasy allows you to see things in so many different ways because I love fantasy. Oh my goodness. It really does bring things to perspective because you create your own worlds. You know what I mean? You create the lives, the names, the emotions, the everything that comes into fantasy. So it really is heartwarming to know that you wrote this book, and when you shared it with a few people that you did, they were like, "Oh, this needs to be more. This needs to do this. The world needs to share this." I mean, when you heard that, how did that make you feel knowing that somebody else was receiving your work in a positive way?
It felt really good, but really kind of scary too. I mean, I hadn't thought about putting it out there, and you do feel very vulnerable and raw knowing that, basically this is my story. Um, but at the same time, my goal quickly became to say, hey, this is something that could be a model for other people. Like if they're having an eating disorder or even any depression, I mean, it could apply to so many different things.
Yeah.
Addiction, depression, um, lots of mental challenges. And just to show that hope there, and especially for young people, because I know when I was in it, I thought, my life is over. I'm nothing, I'm never going to be able to achieve anything else again. And it just was, a narrow view of the long life I had waiting.
Yeah,
And to
that's
be clear, that my story of overcoming anorexia is not a fantasy. It's not set in a fantasy world. I wrote fantasy after that story, just to be
Oh.
clear. Yeah.
Okay. Thank
Yeah.
you. Thank you for that clarity because I
Yeah.
think yeah, I mixed it up and I added it all together. So I apologize. But I
That's
yeah,
okay.
I think that is true. That people don't realize that when you write a story, it is very vulnerable. You know what I mean? It's like your baby. It's a part of your heart. It's a part of your soul. You know what I mean? It's your experiences. It's everything that you perceived, believed, heard, seen, experienced all in one in one book or multiple books at that. But it allows people to judge without knowing, you know what I mean? And it allows people to see you without actually knowing anybody else's side of the story. So it is kind of scary, but it also is very empowering because that's your truth. You know what I mean? That's a part of your truth that you hold on to that you know is what made you who you are today. And it's nothing can take that away from you. And also, why would you want to take that away from you now when it has molded you to be the woman that you are, you know? And I think that's the beauty of writing is that you can share a part of you and have that vulnerability aspect, but you also have that empowerment aspect as well. And when other people see it and hear it and read it and experience it with you, it's also empowering because now it creates unity. You know what I mean? And it also immortalizes you. You know what I mean? That's one thing I always say to all of my authors is that once you write a book and you publish it out, you become immortalized. You know what I mean? Like you will live on forever because somebody will pick up this book long gone before you're done and it would provide them hope. It would provide them a sense of understanding like this person been through something that I'm going through right now years before I did. So if she was able to make it, so can I. You know what I mean? And it's so empowering. So I thank you for writing your story, writing your truth and all that you are. And so if you can if you can provide any type of keen hope to anybody out there that's thinking about writing their truth, what would you share to them?
I think just do it. It's just, you know, if you're loving writing it, if it's bringing you joy, and then just keep writing because you never know what that's going to turn into. I mean, I think the biggest fear of anybody putting anything out into the world is being judged for not being enough, or at
Mm,
least for me, not being enough, not doing it good enough. And you kind of just have to set those aside and just embrace that gift that you have for that storytelling, or that you have for the story that you have, which is a gift in and of itself.
yeah, most definitely. It's a gift that you don't even realize it's a gift until later on in the years and you look back and you're like, "Oh, that was so nice. Oh, I'm so glad I did that." You know what I mean? That self-accomplishment because nobody can take that away from you. Nobody at all. But it's sad to know that time is catching up to us. So what can be some lasting words of wisdom that you can leave us off with to keep on thinking?
Yeah, so I think my main message is just to keep moving forward. Even like anytime I feel stuck, just taking some step, some type of action. And like I said, whether it's just, reassessing, taking a walk, listening to music, just kind of opens up that creative window maybe for what is the next step forward.
Yeah, absolutely. That creative window is real. And we got to step into that zone of genius that we already have and just being who we are, just moving forward, reassessing is so valuable. Oh, thank you so much, Trisha. I really appreciate this conversation. And ladies and gentlemen, if you enjoyed this conversation as much as I did, go check out Trisha. I have access to her websites in the description. You find it in audio, YouTube, wherever you're at listening to this conversation, you can find her link so you don't have to Google search her. You don't gotta go down that rabbit hole. I got you so that you can continue on thinking because she has such great access. I mean, content on her book. You have access to her, to all of her books. Oh, and all of the great content that she has to offer to the world just so that we can continue on thinking. So, with that being said, bye.